The trader you become. How traders respect stop losses, despite losses. Why do stop losses feel so emotional for traders? Why do we move them, widen them, tighten them too early, or completely ignore them? Even when we already know we shouldn't? Most traders do not struggle with stop losses because they lack knowledge. They struggle because stop losses force them to confront something emotionally uncomfortable: uncertainty, loss, being wrong, lack of control. And in those moments, many traders stop executing their process and begin emotionally negotiating with fear. Maybe it will come back. Maybe I should widen it. Maybe I'm getting wicked out. Maybe I should close early. Maybe I can avoid the loss. But what if the goal is not avoiding losses? What if the real skill in trading is learning how to execute consistently despite losses? Because professional traders do not become consistent by avoiding discomfort. They become consistent by reducing emotional improvisation and learning how to trust structure more deeply than fear. Chapter 1. The emotional battle around stop losses. Stop losses are one of the biggest emotional battlegrounds in trading because once a trade is open, uncertainty becomes real. Money is now at risk. Fear becomes active. Emotional attachment becomes active. The need to be right becomes active. And many traders slowly begin micromanaging the trade emotionally, watching every candle, every pullback, every wick, every fluctuation, constantly asking, should I move it? Should I close early? Should I widen the stop? Should I tighten it? Should I take profit now? The trade slowly becomes emotional management instead of process execution. And the more emotional negotiation happens, the harder discipline becomes. Chapter 2. Most traders are trying to avoid emotional pain. Many traders believe they are trying to avoid losses, but often they are trying to avoid emotional pain, the pain of uncertainty, the pain of being wrong, the pain of loss, the pain of failure, the pain of watching price move against them. So instead of respecting structure, traders begin negotiating emotionally with fear. They widen stops, hoping price will come back. They tighten stops because fear becomes overwhelming. They exit too early because discomfort feels unbearable. They override the original plan emotionally, and afterward, many traders feel frustrated with themselves because deep down, they know the problem was not strategy. It was emotional interference. One of the deepest realizations traders eventually have is that good stop management is mostly emotional management, not prediction, not perfection, not avoiding losses, but accepting uncertainty, reducing impulsiveness, protecting psychology, and learning how to execute consistently despite discomfort. Chapter 3. The more you micromanage, the more emotional you become. One of the biggest psychological traps in trading is excessive micromanagement, constantly staring at every candle, every pullback, every micro fluctuation activates emotional threat monitoring. The nervous system begins interpreting normal market movement as immediate danger, and every new decision creates more emotional negotiation, more fear, more self-doubt, more second-guessing, more impulsiveness. This is why many traders actually become more emotional the more they watch the trade, which is why many professionals eventually zoom out, reduce screen fixation, and stop micromanaging every fluctuation, because more observation often creates more emotional interference. Chapter 4. Professional traders reduce emotional improvisation. Professional traders understand something many struggling traders overlook. Consistency does not come from perfect prediction. It comes from consistent execution, which is why many professionals simplify stop management intentionally. They reduce unnecessary emotional decisions. They reduce improvisation. They reduce emotional exposure. Before entering the trade, they already know where the stop goes, why it goes there, what invalidates the setup, and how much risk is acceptable. Once inside the trade, the decision is already made. This removes panic calculations, emotional improvisation, impulsive stop movement. Emotional traders often manage stops based on fear. This candle scares me. Maybe I should move it. Maybe I should give it more room. But professionals usually think differently. They ask, where is the trade objectively invalid? Not, where does my fear activate? That distinction changes everything psychologically. Chapter 5. Structure protects psychology. Many successful traders eventually move toward more structural stop management, not because they became emotionless, but because they understand human psychology. They use structural stops, invalidation levels, volatility levels, key support and resistance. Liquidity areas, predefined trade plans, because structure reduces emotional improvisation. One of the biggest psychological mistakes traders make is choosing position size based only on how much money they want to make, instead of how much loss they can emotionally tolerate calmly. Because once the amount at risk feels emotionally overwhelming, fear begins controlling execution. Traders become hypervigilant. They micromanage every candle. They move stops emotionally. They panic during pullbacks. They override structure. Not necessarily because they lack discipline, but because the nervous system no longer feels safe. This is why many traders experience enormous psychological relief. When they reduce position size, smaller size creates breathing room, calmer thinking, patience, easier execution, and less emotional negotiation. Many professionals understand psychological survivability matters more than emotional intensity, which is why traders should seriously ask themselves, what amount of loss can I genuinely accept calmly without emotionally overriding my process? Because the correct position size is not only financial, it is psychological. Chapter 6. Respecting stop losses begins before entering. One of the most important psychological shifts traders can make is understanding that stop discipline begins before entering the trade. Before entering, professionals mentally decide, I am willing to lose this amount. This changes the emotional relationship dramatically, because now the stop loss becomes accepted business risk, not emotional emergency. Many traders never truly accept the loss beforehand, which is why panic begins the moment price approaches the stop. But acceptance creates calm, and calm protects execution. This is also why many professionals use checklists before entering trades, not because they are robotic, but because structure reduces emotional error. Is this an A+ setup? Is the stop structural? Is risk predefined? Is position size emotionally manageable? Is invalidation clear? Am I emotionally calm? Checklists interrupt impulsive behavior before emotional decisions take control. Chapter 7. Predetermined rules reduce emotional negotiation. Many traders make stop management harder because every trade becomes emotional improvisation. Should I move it? Should I hold? Should I tighten? Should I widen? But professionals often reduce this negotiation through predefined structure. Move to break-even. Only after a certain condition. Trail only after structural confirmation. Partial only at predefined areas. No widening stop losses. No emotional stop movement during noise. The more predefined the process becomes, the less emotional negotiation is required during the trade. Mechanical does not mean becoming rigidly robotic. Markets still require adaptation, structure, understanding, context, and experience. But the goal is reducing unnecessary emotional improvisation. That is the key. Chapter 8. The psychological shift that changes everything. Most struggling traders focus on, how do I avoid losses? But consistent traders eventually begin asking, how do I execute my process consistently despite losses? That shift changes everything psychologically, because now the goal is no longer emotional protection. The goal becomes process consistency, emotional stability, long-term survivability, trusting structure despite discomfort, respecting stop losses despite uncertainty, executing despite fear. Final chapter, calm traders respect structure. Maybe respecting stop losses is not really about becoming fearless. Maybe it is about becoming calmer around uncertainty, becoming more accepting of losses, more trusting of structure, more willing to execute despite discomfort. Because trading becomes emotionally exhausting when every loss feels personal. But calmer traders eventually realize losses are part of the process. Uncertainty is part of the process. Imperfection is part of the process. And consistency is not built through emotional reaction. It is built through repeated execution, one structured decision at a time. So if you are struggling with stop losses right now, perhaps the answer is not becoming harder on yourself. Perhaps the answer is simplifying your process, reducing emotional improvisation, and learning how to trust structure more deeply than fear. If this video resonated with you, perhaps share it with someone else walking through the same struggle. And if you want more content like this, you can subscribe and continue the journey, because the traders who survive long-term are often the traders who learn how to stay calm enough to keep executing despite losses.